Hello, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
Today, we're reviewing a movie that just dropped on Hulu this past weekend, starring Emma Thompson, which is called Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. And
Indeed. I'll tell the folks what it's about if they haven't heard of it. This dropped straight to Hulu, correct?
Straight to Hulu. No theatrical run whatsoever.
Yep. Nancy Stokes, a 55-year-old widow, is yearning for some adventure, human connection, and some sex. Some good sex.
Yeah. So
and that is what the movie is about.
It's very much what it's about. A very sex-positive film.
Yes, and even though it necessarily hasn't gotten a ton of buzz, we are huge Emma Thompson fans. So when we saw that this was coming out and with that premise, basically a woman who's just never had good sex before, and just the whole setup was like, okay, I'm definitely intrigued. I mean, Emma Thompson pretty much can do no wrong. So
yeah, this also had this had some pretty good buzz coming out of Sundance, where it debuted. So it had good early reviews out of there, and it was something I missed, which I was upset about. Like after Sundance was over, I thought, like, God, I really should have seen this movie. It just seems like it'll be really good. And then got the kind of early summer Hulu release date. So I'd been looking forward to this one since January, basically.
Yeah.
And we finally got it this weekend. And again, it's just right there on Hulu for everybody to check out whenever you want. Don't need to go to the theater to see it or anything like that. One thing that I find interesting about this movie is that we've seen a lot of movies that were sort of designed around COVID restrictions with like kind of one room, 2 or 3 people, and that's it.
Yeah.
This movie was conceived like without COVID in mind, either like before it, but it fits very much like it could be a play or just kind of that COVID movie feel of just, I mean, like 98% of the movie is the 2 people in the same, like Nancy and Leo in the same hotel room over like 3 or 4 different quote unquote sessions.
Yeah. And I thought that was very interesting. That is kind of I guess I didn't realize that going in that it was going to be completely like that. I guess I kind of expected more like we'll get 20 minutes of kind of showing how everyone got here, and then like the big build up will be to when she hires this gentleman Leo Grande. But instead, it starts with him basically like coming to the hotel room door and knocking on the door and being like, hello. Like it starts with their first meeting, and we kind of have to figure out everything that came before it from their conversations.
Yeah. Also, I don't know why, because I'm very aware that Emma Thompson is British, but it surprised me that this was a British movie. I was very much expecting him to be American for some reason. I don't really have a good explanation as to why.
Yeah. I was expecting more like I thought he was going to be like a Latin kind of like a Brazilian dude or something. Like I thought it'd be like, okay, but no, he's just like a British dude or Irish.
I think he's Irish, actually.
Irish, yeah.
Yeah.
He is played by Daryl McCormack,
who
I don't recognize from anything before, but I thought he did a really good job. I mean, you have to basically be on screen with Emma Thompson for like the whole movie.
I was thinking about that kind of the whole time, where I was just like, man, this guy is just like straight up like back and forth, like a 90-minute scene basically with Emma Thompson.
Yeah.
And for somebody who, I mean, I think we're going to see him in a lot of things going forward.
I think we will too.
He's very well cast in this movie. But for somebody who I haven't seen in a lot of stuff, and somebody this young, like I was very aware of kind of the like acting power dynamics going on in the room. And I thought that was an interesting contrast with the dynamics between the characters, where he
took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. Where he's the one who's very sure of him, like self-assured and confident and knows what he's doing. And she is just frazzled and nervous and jittery and shy and sort of shameful and like all of these things.
Yeah, she's extremely anxious, kind of a nervous wreck. Multiple times is like, no, this is a mistake. You can leave. Like, sorry. Like she tries multiple times, just back out of it.
I'll still pay you. Just please go away.
Yep.
Yeah. And we should say this is her husband in the movie. Her husband died 2 years ago.
Yeah,
she's got kids who are basically grown up in their 20s, roughly.
Yeah.
And she just never, her and her husband didn't do anything exciting ever, and she just
he was the only one that she ever slept with, so I think they definitely give the impression that just, she's just trying to break out of this mundane routine that has been her life for like 30 plus years. Like that comes through in like all so much of her dialogue.
Yeah. And she's reached this point where she's been the same for so long, and sort of, I mean, we don't really get into any like politics of it, but just sort of like she has sort of some prude opinions on certain or a more
she's a
traditional.
She's a college professor that I think teaches
high school
like
teacher, maybe,
or
really
like
sure.
religious ethics or something, like some course along those lines. So she talks about, how she can't believe how short the skirts are these days, and there's definitely a lot of judgment like coming from her, but you kind of feel like that's just because she has been so kind of stuck in this rut for what she feels is like her whole life. So that's
exactly what I was starting to get to, is she's got all these sort of like this community that she grew up in with these certain expectations that she has sort of like echoed back to people almost as a way to sort of justify the mundanity of her own life.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But then you can tell, I mean, she booked this guy. Like, he even makes the point, like, you called me, you thought about this for a while.
Yeah.
So you must have had a good reason. This wasn't like a impetuous decision.
Yeah.
And you say she keeps trying to talk herself out of it. And you can tell she knows that she just deserves this and there's nothing wrong with it. But all these societal pressures and weights are still pressing down on her. And it's kind of this movie is almost like a therapy session in many ways as well. It's just like slowly she has to break out from this shell that she's been living under for 50 years.
Yeah. And also it's like a dual therapy session. It's like she has the stuff that she has to work through. And then we also get a little bit of kind of what's going on in his life. His real name isn't Leo Grande. And, we kind of
shocking. We know.
Yeah. Shocking. And we kind of come to learn, kind of how he ended up where he is at. And, it's very interesting that just their long kind of running, rambling conversations while they're trying to like dance around like the awkwardness, really reveals a lot about both of them as the movie goes on, which was really interesting and needed to be that way because they're pretty much by far the main characters. There's a few other that like, there's like one scene where they get coffee. So there's like a waitress, but I mean, the cast is very short.
There's multiple waitresses.
Oh yeah. The waitresses keep coming up and asking her if she needs anything. But yeah, I mean, they are basically just them two carrying the entire movie. So it needed to be well written for it to work. And I think that for what it was, for the most part, I think it did work, or at least it, for a movie that's mostly two people talking in a hotel room, I thought there was a lot going on. And I did like that.
Yeah, I did have kind of one. I will say, though, I guess while we're still talking about kind of things that we liked about it.
Yeah.
It's also just like very funny at times, and the dialogue's really witty and back and forth. They're both very smart people, which I really liked. She comes in with some preconceived notions about him too, which I thought it was good that they sort of set it up that way and then proceeded to kind of like dispel or kind of shatter some of those. I thought that was really well done. And it's often very funny in a sort of like British witty dialogue, and sort of, I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it kind of hits that note for me, which I tend to really enjoy with British comedies. Just kind of one issue that I had was it gets kind of preachy at times in a way where the dialogue suddenly becomes almost like you wouldn't be surprised if one of them just turned and looked into the camera and started talking to the audience.
Yeah, specifically like one conversation I feel like they have about like they start talking about like sex work in general and like the morality of it. And then it gets very much like, whoa. Like I thought we were like learning about like these two people, but now we're kind of like having a TED talk about like sex work and whether it should be. And
I agreed with what they were saying. And I think it's a good thing to have that in this movie, but the way it was done was sort of clunky and kind of pulled me out of the story a little bit.
Agreed. That would be a weak spot for me. And I guess the other, not necessarily a weak spot, but because of the type of movie it is, I feel like it kind of had a little bit of a built-in ceiling. Like just for what it was, I felt like, it would have been really hard for this to reach like 5 stars for me, because it's pretty, it's pretty straightforward, kind of a simple, very small scope story, and it was interesting, but I don't know, like you said, it kind of felt like it could have been like a play or something, which isn't necessarily always a bad thing, but but I thought for what it was, they covered a lot of ground besides that one part. And I did actually really like, one of my favorite scenes was the scene when they get coffee, because we get to step outside of the hotel room and we get to see how they interact with other people.
Right.
I kind of thought for a second we would get either a flashback or like some sort of scene with like her and her kids, or like him and his, like something more outside the hotel room. But really all we got was just when they get coffee, but that's okay. I mean, I'm okay
I was fine
it.
with that. I didn't think we needed to really meet anybody else. I thought that worked. You want to get into the stars, or you got anything else?
Mostly I just, as always, Emma Thompson is just fantastic. I mean, like from the beginning when she's just a nervous wreck constantly, and then you see as the movie goes on, she starts to get more self-confidence, and like, she's just, I mean, she is a treasure. So as always, she totally killed it. And good 100%. And good for, what's his name again?
Daryl McCormack.
Daryl McCormack, for holding his own with someone as big as she is. But let's get to the stars. All right.
Jump the gun a little bit there. Just excited to show off the new graphic. Usually at least warn people that we'll be back in a few seconds showing our YouTube graphic, kind of what our star ratings are, 1 through 5, but I just dove right in.
Excited.
Exactly. Anybody familiar, they knew it was coming anyway. So that's not a huge deal. But I can go first.
Okay.
If that works. Let me bring this up really quickly here. I'm going to give this movie 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think they did a really good job with it. It's a topic that I think you don't see a lot of movies made about, and it's like very refreshingly honest on a topic that needs that. And there were a lot of really good moments. The dialogue between the two was great. The chemistry between the two of them was really good. I just think everybody did a really good job in this movie. I kind of agree where, it doesn't reach certain heights, maybe just because of the nature of it. Although there were moments when I was thinking like this could get up into like the 4 territory for me. But mostly just kind of that issue with it feeling a little preachy in like 1 or 2 scenes was kind of what kept it in the very good instead of great range for me. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I would recommend this to a lot of people.
Nice. I'm actually going to do the same. I'm going to give it a 3.5. I actually just watched it a couple hours ago. So when I was coming in here, I thought I'd probably just give it a 3, because I thought it was good and solid. But the more I've thought about it, like for what it is and what they're trying to get across, and like you said, a subject and a personal story that I feel like I haven't seen in a lot of movies before, and especially not that honestly. Maybe as like a joke, or maybe it's been, but like as just an honest, like a person who just for one reason or another, their life decisions, they just never, they never had, there's something that they never had and they want to have it, and that's okay. And I don't know. I thought the movie is very honest, and if you appreciate that type of writing and you like that, and especially if you're an Emma Thompson fan, I think I would definitely recommend it. So I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I thought it was very good. Like I said, I felt it maybe had a built-in ceiling, but I'm glad I watched it, and it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like we're both recommending that movie again on Hulu. If you have a Hulu subscription, you just go out and watch it from your home.
Definitely
tonight,
rated R.
even if you want to. Yes, rated R. Good. I mean, I feel like that's kind of implied given the subject matter.
It is, but when you bring it up, it's like comedy. I think it says like comedy first. So it's, I mean, there's a lot of, there is sex. So just so you know, but it was good. And then, was there anything else, or is it my turn to put a wrap on the show?
I did not have anything else.
All right. It is more difficult to pretend that you do have feelings when you don't than to pretend that you don't have feelings when you do.